A composer and podcaster with an immense love of his adopted hometown of Plymouth, Massachusetts, Bob Harris sat down with Tiff Phillips.
I discovered my love of music pretty early on. Music was always playing in the house as I was a kid, and we lived in an apartment building, and my aunt had a piano in her apartment. They lived downstairs from us, and I would always go down and just play, listening to music, trying to make the sounds that I heard on the radio. So I started playing the piano. My parents, they started me with piano lessons at a young age, but I was totally undisciplined and couldn't really stick with it. And they started me at age 7, which could have been a bit too young for a kid like me who wanted to be out and playing all the time with his friends. But I continued on and discovered that I had some aptitude in or about the 6th grade when we took a test to discover whether or not we could actually qualify to play in the junior high school orchestra. And I more than exceeded expectations and went on to play trumpet. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I was fully fledged. I played first trumpet in the trumpet section. I really discovered that music was my passion. So I was sitting there, and they put on the stand the music, a watered-down version of the Triumphal March from Aida, which is it's just a beautiful trumpet solo at the beginning. And I got to play that trumpet solo, and I heard my voice in and amongst all of the instruments in the orchestra, the strings, the other brass instruments, the percussion. And I said, this is home for me. This is where I'm going to live the rest of my life. I developed a love of Plymouth when my wife and I discovered that she was a Mayflower descendant. And we had a call to Plymouth and everything about Plymouth. And we lived in a town in north central Massachusetts at the time called Royalston. And but on one weekend, we traveled to Maine, and we hit upon a cemetery there in, forget the town, Freiburg. We hit upon a cemetery, and we knew that one of her great-grandfathers was buried there, a man named Ivory Fogg Snow. And you think of Ivory Snow as like a soap detergent, but Ivory Fogg Snow was someone who fought in the Civil War, and she was sort of interested in that. We went to the local library in Freiburg and read through some material on him and discovered that he was a Mayflower descendant. So that took us to the path to Plymouth. Okay, long story short, we made a decision that when we retired, we would come and live in Plymouth. And unfortunately, she passed before that happened. But I came to Plymouth, and I had a new partner at the time, and we both loved it here, made our home here. And then we sort of discovered the beauty of Plymouth and how not only the Plymouth Harbor and the seacoast and the beaches, but the cranberry bogs. And that walking the cranberry bogs and being in the Pine Barrens inspired me to do my first album, which was, I entitled it Plymouth on My Mind. And it really is an homage to some of the beauty, the natural beauty, and the cultural history of what Plymouth is all about. And it's now become my home and a love for me. The Massachusetts Music Creators Forum is a very recent development in my life. I had thought for some time, starting back in the fall of 2024, that I would facilitate helping young musicians whatever style they were, young music creators, composers, whether it was classical music, whether it was rock music, whether it was music for film, whether it was for rappers or whoever the music creator was, provide them with opportunities that are very difficult and challenging for young independent musicians today, i.e. young musicians are really struggling today to make a living in music and to make a career out of it. So I was inspired to create an organization, the Massachusetts Music Creators Forum, in which young people, we could provide assistance for young people to get their music, to share their music with the public, but also to get them to interact with one another, because composing music is a very solitary endeavor. You work in isolation, 90% of the time, and 10% of the time, if you're lucky, your music will get played in a performance ensemble. So I thought that would be a really great opportunity for young people, and I wanted to present that opportunity. So we had a meeting at the Plymouth Public Library in November. Actually, in January. The call went out in November, in January of 2025, and we had 3 people show up, and I was one of the 3. So it wasn't seeming like much would happen. However, the other one of the 3 people was a young lady named Yang Fan Zhu. And Yang Fan is an internationally known composer who was studying at the New England Conservatory. And we were all sharing our music, and I fell in love with her music. She fell in love with my music. And we then said, you know what, the best way to get a venue, to get the composers out there is create a concert. All I can say is that we're looking forward to continuing along and trying to get into larger venues, maybe in Boston, to get a broader audience, to get some more traction, and perhaps get people recorded and get their music out there so more people can hear them and experience the talent that they have. Fairbury Path Music is a small, independent studio in which I produce several artists, including Rusty Stubblefield, a country guy. I produce E-Dude X, who is a very special performer that doesn't perform live. And the music that I produce in that studio is specifically geared for the platform of TikTok, because TikTok is gets you to a very broad audience, and also YouTube. But that's what primarily we do. We do arrangements for other composers. Our goal is not to monetize our music. Our goal is to produce fine music at very little cost, so that we can just share that music with other people who might enjoy it and have a need for it to advance their own goals, not certainly our goals. Music fulfills me in a way that brings joy to me, it brings peace to me, it brings focus to me, it brings energy to me. It brings a sense of completion to me. It brings a sense of bringing people together for me, and it brings a sense of humanity. It brings a sense of a sense of a higher purpose. There was a time when music was not commoditized. There was a time when music was made to elevate the human condition, to raise the spirits of people, to bring them closer to something sacred. But then over time, people started figuring out that you could make money doing it. So I try and stick to that fulfillment, which is spiritual for me, musically. It's a spiritually engaging process that far exceeds any profit motive that one would ever search for. So it fulfills me in a way that I get to create for that purpose and not necessarily to make money and figure out that music is somewhat just a business. And I don't poo-poo the business, mind you. I encourage musicians to monetize what they do. It's just not for me. I have several things I could say in terms of advice for young musicians. One is master your craft. Focus on trying to be as proficient as you can possibly be in playing an instrument or multiple instruments. Second, I would say gain a deep appreciation for what you're listening to and all music that's out there, because there's so many opportunities to make music with so many different people, so many different ensembles, so many different groups, so many different venues, so many different places. So be very open about the music you listen to, and be very open to share your music with other people, because in sharing your music, you will only grow as a musician. And I think third, and probably most importantly, and I think I've talked about this a little bit, focus on the music itself. Focus on the inherent good that music contributes to humanity and the human spirit, and focus on how you can elevate the consciousness of society and raising the consciousness and the spiritual conditions in our world to make the world a better place.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button before you go. We'll see you next time.